episode 267 of Global from Asia. My Uncle Gary and I talk about the gutting of the blue-collar American.
Welcome to the Global from Asia podcast, where the daunting process of running an international business is broken down into straight-up, actionable advice. And now, your host, Michael Michelini.
Hope everybody's having an amazing August. It's been a wild summer, exactly a year since I moved to Thailand, and I think I've said it on previous shows. Seems like maybe well, I don't want to say I had a feeling, but I could feel stuff like this building up, and Hong Kong airport's closure and a lot of insanity happening. The tariffs, I've been talking to Bloomberg quite a bit. Shelley, their reporter in Hong Kong, has been fascinated by my stories, and she also brought up on a conversation about how my family back home is responding to this, and she's followed some of the progress. We've been talking a few times over the last couple of months, and she said that she was always intrigued because I think a lot of my family didn't really like that I moved to China. And today I bring on my Uncle Gary. I've not had a family member, it's full disclosure, family member, but he's a well-read person, and he's got amazing perspectives, and I thought the listeners today might enjoy this perspective. Might not be a perspective everybody here might agree with, but he actually supports the tariffs, and he supports what some of the policies have been happening. He talks about how all this outsourcing he saw happening in the 90s to China, to India, all these free trades opening up the borders, and kind of really he feels, which I also have a feeling, did kind of, as I said in a preview of the show, gut American blue-collar workers. I mean, I had a little sneak peek working in a machine shop in high school. That whole thing got shut down. I saw factories in my hometown getting shut down in Connecticut. So Gary is a very opinionated person. He knows that himself. He says it in the show. And after the show, in the blah, blah, blah section, we'll talk about some of my family discussions and some of my perspectives. I grew up in a blue-collar American society, and I know some listeners, and this show gets published in WeChat and in China and other places around the world. Anybody in the world can listen to it, and I think it might be interesting to get this perspective. I think we all got to keep open eyes, open ears. So let's listen to my Uncle Gary talking about the gutting of the American blue-collar worker. Are you trying to get your money out of Hong Kong? Are these protests kind of driving you crazy, and are you wondering what to do with your money? You might want to look at GoRemit.hk, a cross-border payment solution for your Hong Kong banking needs. If you need to get money into mainland China, into other parts of Southeast Asia, and more countries getting added to the list, our friends and sponsors and supporters here of the show, GoRemit.hk, have a cross-border payment solution that keeps very low fees, and they make a small cut of the FX exchange between countries, much more fair than traditional banking, as well as their support of the show. Check them out at www.goremit.hk. Tell them GFA sent you. All right, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This is going to be a very fun one. It's my Uncle Gary Garneau. Thank you for coming on, Gary.
Well, thanks, Mike, for asking me. You know me; I'm very opinionated.
Yeah.
I want to give
Go ahead.
I want to give the. I'm sorry, Mike. What was that?
No. So go ahead.
I want to give the public a basic rundown of who or what I am before I go into my tirades about politics and all this other stuff. First of all, I'm a blue-collar man. I don't have a college degree. I've worked as a machinist, tool die maker. I've worked as a welder in the shipyard for a couple of years. I was a carpenter as a young man, and even was a contractor for a few years. I drove truck around the nation. I was OTR. So I've done a little of everything.
Yeah.
I was in the military for 6 years, National Guard, engineering unit, which means we were construction workers in the Army. And I was involved in politics. I ran with an independent party in Connecticut. I'm going to tell the folks a few things there that probably won't believe me, but I did run for U.S. Senate in Connecticut. I was supposed to be on every ballot machine in the state. Notice I said supposed to. I also ran for Congress. I petitioned myself on the for Congress, and I was on the ballot in District 1, 1992. I ran for U.S. Senate in 94 against Lieberman and Labriola.
Okay.
I ran against Barbara Kennelly, who was the incumbent, and Steele's son was running as a Republican. And then I ran for lieutenant governor in 1998. The party I was affiliated with was called the Concerned Citizens Party. We were basically a pro-life party. Now, Connecticut is very pro-choice, one of the most pro-choice states in the Union.
Yeah.
And it's odd because Connecticut is predominantly Catholic. And how can that be? Well, it took me years to figure it out, but it was education. A lot of kids, young people that go to Catholic school, go to college, and college people are very big supporters of legalized abortion. So I was involved in the pro-life movement for a couple of years with that political party. I also did some sidewalk counseling outside abortion clinics, and I was not the screamer. I was the talker.
I remember.
And, you remember Mike driving by?
Yeah, I remember.
See me standing there with Virginia Interligi and the other good people there. And so I've done a lot of weird things in my life, I guess.
Sure.
Not weird, but different things. I shouldn't say
I've
weird.
always remembered when I was a kid, you were always the one, like you said, you were on the ballot, you were in all these, you're always running for office, and like you said, you were pro-life, and you were at the clinics, like you said, the sidewalk talking, and I've always known you as the one in the family that would always, not be afraid to speak your mind and take those chances. So.
That got me in trouble more times than once. Go ahead, Mike.
But today there's so much we can talk about. Maybe we can have you come back on the show again. But we were chatting. I try to keep in touch with you and the family as much as I can. It's very hard being on the other side of the globe, like we said. But we had a great conversation about, of course, we talked about tariffs and China and Amazon, and it's kind of like the world I live in this show, and a lot of listeners are in this space. So I just thought it'd be really fascinating conversation. You mentioned at the machine shop and tooling. I was working as an intern, if you remember, for a little while at.
We worked in the same company for a while. You were amazing. You worked every department, and there was one boss there that everybody would go through him like he would go through people like tissue paper. I mean, he was, and yet he would bump into me in the hallway and say, "Mike's the best guy I ever worked with," and he couldn't say enough about you, Mike. I don't know what you did. You got along with it because nobody else could,
Yeah.
And you also worked every single department. Here you are, a high school kid, and you were designing our tooling.
Yeah, I did the
CAD
remember
design.
That.
My boss would come in with you, and he would tell you what to do, and then you dropped. Matter of fact, one of the tools I made, you drew. And it was a pretty complicated tool, too. So you were amazing,
Oh, thanks, Gary. But, I remember that place shut down, and then you mentioned, I didn't know, but there was a clothing textile factory upstairs that closed down. So that was in the 90s. That was in the 90s.
Jobs.
That was
I'm sorry.
That was in the 90s, and I think you mentioned that was also I didn't really know. I just remember there was an engineer there that told me all the jobs would go to India and China. He was saying already when in the 90s, when I was there, he said people are emailing those CAD designs you're talking about. They're emailing it to India, and India's drawing them while we're sleeping, and then we're sending them back, the next morning. So, you said there was a lot of investments into China or, overseas in the 90s. That was like when I was too young to remember.
I was running for office, and I happened to read this article. I think it was in the National Geographic, and we had already poured $100 billion into China, invested $100 billion in industrial jobs and investments, and that was in '92.
Crazy. So what does that mean, invest? I'm...
Well, they build factories over there, and what it was. I think it's my opinion is they're trying to break down the middle class in this country. They're trying to. We had a lot of manufacturing in the U.S. at one time. I want to throw a statistic at the people out there. I just learned this statistic recently, and it tells you everything about what's going on. 1940. I'll do it the other way around. In 2013, between the ages of 18 and 37, 37% of Americans have degrees now, 2-year or 4-year degrees, 37%. Take a guess what the percentage was in 1945.
I might have guessed last time, but I'm thinking around...
You were pretty close. I think you said 5%.
Yeah, I was thinking 5 to
4%.
10. Yeah.
4% of the people had college degrees in 1945. What does that tell you? That tells you everything. It tells you we're a totally different kind of economy. We're not an industrial-based economy anymore. We have some industry. I'm not saying we don't, none at all. But, this college thing is a bad thing in a way because it divides the people. You have the college people and the non-college people. And then you got the tradesmen, When you had a lot of manufacturing and a lot of unions, I remember as a kid, somebody that worked in a union shop made more money than a school teacher, about 20 to 30% more. I admit teachers were underpaid, but what I'm driving at is I'm trying to compare how things have changed so much,
Yeah.
And, in a way it's good for the kids because they have to go out and learn a skill. Being a union factory worker, you're kind of vulnerable because if you get laid off, unless you learn some kind of skill, of course, your skill is that you go to work every day and you're reliable. That's a skill too. Any good company will take a person like that and train them. I would if I had a company. You want reliability and good attitude. That's almost more important than anything else, But so things have changed. I always said this to a lot of my friends. The West is constantly changing. There's all kinds of things that cause changes, rippling effects in our society, like superhighways destroyed the cities, made the suburbs, which I don't like. Air conditioning made Florida. Legalized abortion has changed everything. The bankers made so much money with that, and the 1% when they put the women to work and have the women, and now it takes two incomes to make to support a family when it took one before. You know how much money they made with that? In 1973, a raised ranch went for went for $49,000, and the interest rate was 7%, the mortgage rate. 1983, 10 years later, that same house was $130,000. The interest rate was 11%. I mean, a lot of money was made with legalizing abortion. I'm telling you.
I don't know. I guess some listeners are probably wondering how to make that connection with that one variable. I mean, there's so many variables, right?
There is a lot of variables. You're right about that, too. Well, just like you hear people say, American labor is too expensive. We can't make anything in America anymore. What they don't tell you is American labor is much more productive. I'll give you an example. I was in a machine shop, and we had this part we used to make. It was donut-shaped and have all kind of cones on it. And it took a week to make this part. And you had to put it on 5 different machines. And each operation took about a day or half a day to do. Well, they bought a tape machine, one of these modern tape machines, automatically loads the tools and has a program computer. They could put that part on that one machine, clamp it down, push the button, come back 5 hours later, the part was complete. Now you take that same guy and you put him on 3 machines because he doesn't have to do too much. The machine does all the cutting. He just watches to see if the tool gets dull. If it gets dull, he stops the machine, or the machine automatically. Now in modern ones, they probably shut off automatically when the tool gets dull. And they go into the program and, pull the tool out, change it, put it and get it running again. So they put them on 3 machines, right? Each machine replaced 5 workers. If you put them on 3 machines, you replace 15 workers. You could probably pay the guy $100 an hour. You'd still make money, So you see, now the latest thing is they say, well, we can't bring industry back to America because we don't have the backup system that we had 50, 40 years ago. Again, that's a lie. They were building factories in third world countries. If you could build a factory in a third world country, and you're telling me you can't build a factory in America because there's not enough support. Was there any support in China when they started putting the factories in there? Was there any support when they put a factory in Timbuktu? It's all propaganda and lies. You know what I mean? In my opinion. Anyway, I'm on my tangent, Mike. What do you want to say?
This is good. This is good. I mean, it's true. We want to get the emotion here and the feeling, and So I mean, the point is, I mean, I could feel it in the '90s when I was, like you said, working at Baradon in a machine shop in Connecticut. It just felt like that's the future. That's even why I came out to China. I know my mom's never happy I came here, but I think it's also just the way the world was going. I mean, I remember these free trade. I remember the family discussions about NAFTA, the free trade, opening the borders. I don't really know much about China tariffs before, but I remember the discussions in the 80s and 90s when I was a kid about the free trade with NAFTA and Mexico, and I don't know, was China involved in that? I mean, now there's tariffs.
Oh yeah, they moved a lot of plants into China, because they wanted the cheap labor. But see, China's different than America. China puts China first. You know, they're concerned. China's doing the opposite of what we're doing, in my opinion. China wants to get. I read their 10-year plan. They had an ad in the paper. I should have cut it out, talking about what they plan to do in China. They want to eliminate poverty. They want to increase manufacturing. They want to do something about green. I really think. I think if I was in China, the first thing I'd want to do is get off that damn oil, get into electric cars, and get into hydrogen, geothermal hydrogen. You know, and get away from oil. You know, as much as you can. Be oil independent. But our country's doing the opposite. We're trying to make poverty. We moved all the jobs out, the manufacturing jobs for the low working classes or the working classes, you know.
Yes.
And now these people don't have jobs or good paying jobs. And one of the big problems in America is going to be affordable housing.
Yeah.
You know, the rents are going. You're making $7 an hour and the rent's $800 a month. What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I just remember they'd always, with the stories, like when I was in school or, you know, college or what, they're all just, like you said, about the education and go, you know, everybody has to go to college now, just get a job in the office working on Excel or something. But they would just say that the jobs would just change. It wouldn't be, you know, you're talking about doing tooling and machining. I think they're just trying to say it would be white collar jobs, not blue collar jobs. It would be more.
Which is stupidity because, you know, I respect the college degree, but it doesn't grow corn. It doesn't make tractors. It doesn't produce tooling. It doesn't make shoes and clothing. It doesn't make airplanes and ships. I mean, you know, this thing about Google, what $100 billion, is ridiculous. They're not worth $100 billion. They're a paper tiger, for God's sake. They don't produce any product. Oh, they do provide a service. But, you know, I mean, that's my opinion, you know. What's your opinion?
I mean, I see the, you know, AI is coming, even these, you're talking about outsourced jobs, even the outsourced workers. I read an article, you know, actually we have people in the Philippines helping out with this show, listening, and there's a lot of outsourcing to Philippines or India for like call centers, but that's getting eliminated or reduced because AI is able to like listen to the question from the customer and answer it automatically. So, I mean, I do see the technology you know, you were mentioning about the tape machine replacing the machining requirements. So, I mean,
manual machines,
they are trying to, you know, I think jobs will come back. Manufacturing might come back to the U.S. sooner, but it would be all done through just big machines, and they would just have a few humans kind of like overseeing machines. And
well, at least we get the revenues from it. You know, Mike, if the factories came back and let's say they wouldn't provide many jobs, we would provide us with revenue anyhow. You know, the revenue would be here. You know.
Got it. You know, I think it's even you're talking about these internet companies. I don't know specifically ones. I think it's like Facebook is supporting universal income, so that they'll people just get paid to base income, right? I mean, how do you, what would you think?
Something's going to have to be done because if they keep modernizing, that you won't need people after a while. Everything will be done by machines. Like take Amazon. Now, Amazon had an article in the paper, but I've been saying this for years, that they want to train their warehouse people themselves, which I respect, which is nice. They want to train their people to do computer work, you know, or what they call coding, and the thing is, you know what's going to happen with this guy, this Amazon guy, this Bezos. He's going to take and he's going to build huge warehouses in different sections of the country. They'll probably be a square mile, and they'll be completely computerized. You'll punch your computer for your part. A computer will automatically, with the code numbers that you punch for the part, will get the part and know where your location is and get the part out of the warehouse and load it on a truck. And there'll probably be a handful of people in there just running, keeping the machinery and his computers running. And this is sad, you know. Amazon's going to do a lot of damage to our society. I think we should boycott them, really, because a lot of stores are starting to close now. They're going to build an Amazon in our area. I live in Port St. Lucie, Florida, by the way, folks.
Yeah.
And they're going to build one over here, and they're already talking about it. Some stores are going to close. They know it because if they're in your neighborhood, they'll probably deliver that afternoon. You'll probably call them up in the morning, and they'll probably deliver to your house that afternoon. And it's sad because it takes something away. You know, I even read that some of the stores in New York City are closing on Madison Avenue and Park Avenue. You know, those famous stores for the rich women. They go out and take a walk and go to all these beautiful stores. Some of them are closing up.
Yeah. I mean, it is sad, but then even Amazon does open these pop-up stores. There's a couple of these stores where they don't really have stock. You just order it at the store, and then it'll deliver. Maybe those Park Avenue shops could adapt to it just being more of a showroom and not have an inventory and having it delivered.
Well, you just hit the nail on the head now. That's a point to make. A lot of stores don't have inventory. You come in. I went to a music store a couple of months ago. So I play fiddle. I'm an amateur fiddler, And she said, well, we don't have this. We can get it to you tomorrow. I want a violin strings. She had no selection of violin strings. She had nothing in the store practically. She sold lessons. That's her room. She was making. But if you wanted something, she ordered it and get it to you the next day. She didn't cover it for inventory. She didn't have it in stock.
Got it.
So
yeah,
I hate
think that's what they have to do, though.
I'm sorry.
I mean, they have to do that. I mean, just financing the cost of holding all this, the cost.
Well, your inventory taxes, yeah, that's true. You got a point there.
So what do you think of Walmart? I mean, I feel like people were saying this about Walmart 10, 20, 30 years ago. I remember.
True. Walmart
now
has changed a lot.
Now we're saying about Amazon instead of. Is it just Amazon changing instead of Walmart?
Well, at least Walmart you could walk to. But the thing about Walmart's, I noticed they eliminate one Walmart probably eliminates 20 stores. And yet you go in there and there's nobody in the store. You have to run around to find somebody if you need help. It's amazing. I guess these managers are cost effective.
I thought there was those greeters at the front. I don't know.
They used to have them. Sometimes they have them. Sometimes they don't. But you can tell they're really cutting to the bone. I went to one Walmart and I went down one aisle. It was all the same item in one aisle. I couldn't believe it. They would put all. I couldn't believe it. I says, what? It's like they don't care. They don't have to worry anymore. Go to their tools section where they sell tools. It's if you were a carpenter or a tradesman, you'd be in trouble. They got nothing like hand tools and stuff.
Oh no!
But
so
it's just we're constantly changing society. Take example how we have these suburbs today. Sure. Suburbs to me, I don't like. I don't like suburbs. I think they separate people and they disrupt the system. And here's why I say that. All through centuries, cities. You had city and country. The cities, the people lived in the factories, all the work was done, the tradesmen and all that. And in the country, you had the farmers. Every day, the farmers would load their carts and roll them into the cities, and the people would go to the farmers market and buy fresh food, right? Now, you got suburbs. All the surrounding country around the city is all suburbs now. I remember in Glastonbury, we had a lot of tobacco companies, tobacco farms around Glastonbury, and developers love farmland because they don't have to plow. They don't have to clear the trees or anything like that. All they have to do is start pouring the foundations, And all the tobacco fields were turned into subdivisions.
Okay.
It's all the farmland, the rich farmland along the valleys and everything was suburbs. So what do these people do? They have to get their food from 100, 200 miles, 300, 1,000 miles away. It has to be shipped in. And mind if I switch to another subject?
Sure, we can talk a little bit, yeah.
I got a new thing I call a delocalization. In the modern world, I don't know about China, but in America, we've delocalized everything. At one time, 50, 60 years ago, you had a lot of local factories. You had a lot of local farming. Your banks were local. They made it where we're so dependent. Like take gasoline, for example. If we get off of gasoline and localize our energy again, that's going to take a lot of pressure off a lot of people, I think, And it also focuses the wealth on a handful of people that own the oil companies. And we become dependent. And this is not an accident, in my opinion. It's not an accident. Because when the people become dependent, they have less power. You know what I mean? Less say about their lives or anything else. America couldn't have a revolution right now, I don't think, if we wanted to. All they have to do is cut our oil. Now, in the 70s, before you were born, they had the oil shortage. My poor brother told me one time he saw a line of cars and he needed 5 gallons of gas, so he got in a line with cars and waited 2 hours to get 5 gallons of gas. That is panic. And, I never forget the feeling. I felt like a junkie looking for a fix. I really did. Because without that gasoline, I couldn't go to work. I couldn't go anywhere. Everything was gasoline, and I lived in the country,
Yeah.
It was a horrible feeling.
Crazy.
Now, what it is the globalists want this. They want us to be delocalized because look what they're doing in Venezuela. They don't like Venezuela for several reasons, and they're squeezing them, which I feel they have no right to do. These people have the right to determine themselves, but the globalists don't like that. They don't like social democracy. They don't like a system that empowers the people. They don't like that. See, Venezuela, the people have some say to poor people. The way the political system is set up, they don't like that. They want to go to a system where the 1% totally controls the country. They've been trying to switch that thing over for 40 years now since Chavez came in there. Chavez got rid of all the foreigners so that Venezuela could have their resources for their country.
Got it.
The oil goes to the poor. They use it for housing and to feed the poor. Before Chavez, am I saying that right?
I think so. I think so.
I'm bad with names and vowels and nouns.
Yeah, I think
but anyhow,
it, though.
Before he came in, 71% of people lived in poverty, and there was mass starvation in Venezuela. After he was there several years, the poverty went way down to starving. The people weren't starving anymore, and he used the oil revenues was plowed back into the country and the citizens, because the oil belongs to the people. Even in this country, the oil companies have to get permission because the oil belongs to the people. And what it is, the 1% don't want that. They want that oil, and they don't like the system of government. They don't like social democracy, which is basically our Constitution. Our Constitution is basically a socialistic pact.
Got it.
The Constitution says the country serves the people. The right for liberty, the pursuit of happiness. What's the pursuit of happiness? Social security, unemployment. The government serves the people. But if you look at Congress, you don't get that feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'll get back to delocalization.
Yeah, let's get back. Let's get back to
very bad thing. Yeah, because this is the new thing I've been harping about lately is delocalization, because we have no power in anything anymore. Our jobs are I'll give you an example of what happened in Connecticut. I saw the effects almost right away. I was a young kid, just out of high school, and I was working. I got into the tool and die trade, and I got lucky. Some guy hired me in West Hartford, Ernie Rondo, a little shop, and he really helped me along. He got me started, and I did that for years. I was a machinist, tool and die maker. Because of him, he gave me that opportunity. And when I first got into trade, I remember I gave a notice and I left a job, but I didn't have anything lined up. So I went out and applied for work. I had 3 job offers. Now, I only had 2 years experience, which isn't much for tool and die. You don't really know something until you've been about 10 years. It takes a long time to learn that trade if you really get into it the right way. And I had 3 job offers. Now, what happened is in the 80s, Connecticut changed banking laws. Before that, all the money had to stay in the state. There was no out-of-state banks in Connecticut. Well, they passed the banking laws, and some politicians went to jail because there was a lot of corruption involved, but they didn't change the laws. Almost overnight, everything changed. Now the big banks are coming in from New York, and they're sucking the money out of Connecticut. It was much harder to get a job almost immediately. Within a couple of years, you could see the whole change of the economy.
Crazy.
There weren't as many jobs because the money was being sucked out. And this is what's happening. We're having the money sucked out. You got Walmart's, Amazon, big banks, and all this money. I was in a bank the other day, and this lady wanted $20,000. I guess she had $20,000 in her savings account. They said no. They said you have to wait a week or 2 weeks for approval if you want cash. They would give her a check, but they wouldn't give her cash. I called up my bank, and they said the most I can pull out cash is $5,000.
Wow.
And I'm going to go on to another tangent here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the banks. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think it's related. I mean, we'll still talk about like Barnes & Noble and Amazon tariffs. I really want to talk about tariffs and a trade war, stuff like that.
Okay, I'll make this quick. On my way to the bank the other day, a funny thing happened. I walked in through the doors, and I saw something that you never saw 50 years ago. The banks have glass doors. 50 years ago, when you walked through a bank, the glass doors were covered with mortgage rates, interest rate for savings account. They were proud. They splashed it all over the doors. Walk into a bank today in America, there's no interest rates listed anywhere on those doors.
Yeah, that's true.
I have a checking account, okay? And I have a savings account in a different bank. The checking account pays 0.01%. Now, I'll get into that in a minute, what that means. But my savings account in the other bank is 0.05%. Now, let me explain to the public what that means. 100% is 1. 50% is 1/2, okay, or 0.5. 5% is 5% of 100, which is 5 hundredths, or 0.05. Now, they're 5%. Just 5 is 0.005 mathematically. Now, if you go to 0.5%, it's 0.005. But that's not what they're giving us. They're giving us 0.05%, which comes out to 0.0005, which is 5 10,000ths, which means if you have $10,000 in the bank, you will get $5 in interest that year. 5%, you would get $500. If you had $5,000 in the bank, you would get $250 a year. Within 10 years, you double your money. I think you're the math guy. Of course, with compounded interest, it might be even sooner. At 0.05%, it would take you probably a couple hundred years to double your money.
Yeah.
I haven't sat down and figured it, but at least 100 years, maybe more.
Yeah.
In other words, you're getting nothing for your interest, nothing. And on top of that, your charge cards are like what? 29%. They start at 15. You miss one payment, they whack you up to 29%.
Yeah, credit cards are the worst.
Now, one bank didn't do car loans. The other one did car loans, and here's what she told me. In the old days, when you went to get a car loan, you paid two rates. Used car was a certain rate, new car was another. They don't do that no more. They vary it from 1 to 15%. Which means if you're a doctor making $150,000 a year and you're going to buy a Mercedes for $60,000, they'll give you 1% if you got good credit. But if you're on minimum wage or low wage and you're buying a used car, you're going to pay 15%. You see how the crooked the banks have
fair,
become,
right? Or
and
the
they've
rich,
got all kind of laws now. Florida has a law now. If you don't touch your bank account for 2 years and can't get a hold of you, they take the money out and give it to the state, and the state holds the money.
What?
If you bring a lot of money to the bank, they want all kind of forms and papers to fill out. I guess that's because of the drug dealers, you know. In the old days, you brought money to the bank, you just put it in, that was it. You want to pull it out, you took it out. They're changing laws all the time, these banks. It's incredible. But anyhow, I just wanted people to be aware of that, how the banking has gone nuts.
It is scary.
we don't have capitalism. We really don't. I mean, capitalism is the bank paid you 5%, they loaned it for 7%, they kept 2%. 2% don't sound like much, but if you got $100 million, it comes out okay. Don't have that no more. We don't even actually. In actuality, America is a bankrupt country. We're bankrupt. We really are. We print money, and the money's not backed up by gold anymore. As long as the world buys our money, we will progress. But when they stop you trading with the dollar, we're done. We're in big trouble because we deindustrialized. We need leadership. We need leadership to understand these problems, you know?
Yeah.
You know, when you don't produce product, if you're,
It is scary, for sure.
Well, you know, here's the thing, Mike. When they started deindustrializing the nation, they told the American people, it's the modern economy. We got to have an information economy. Manufacturing is obsolete.
Yeah, that's what they
I
would
couldn't
tell
believe.
me. I know,
And the people believed it. They ate it up. And they had the experts on the TV, on the radio get on and say, manufacturing is obsolete. We need a modern information economy. Now, any country that doesn't produce product is going to become insignificant. All world powers or all powerful nations produce product. You don't produce product. Right now we're living off of the momentum of our financial district, which is a paper tiger, really. You know, just flipping money and these derivatives and all that crap. You know, excuse the language, but
they're having trouble
China
too,
understands that. China understands that. India. You know, everybody talking about Russia and China. What about India? India is going to be a pretty powerful nation. They're really getting into producing product, and they're going to be
we've had them on the show. We've had a couple topics about India.
Yeah. Everybody's talking about China. India is climbing real quick because they understand the importance of producing product and having a society. I don't know what's happened to this country. There's absolutely no common sense about anything anymore. There really isn't. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, we grow food nobody wants to buy. I read we lost $100 billion in export on just corn alone because nobody will buy our corn because you have this GMO corn that makes animals sick. Everybody's sick, you know.
Oh no.
So what we do, we put it in the gasoline. You know, Trump brought it up to 10%. They're going to put 10% corn alcohol. That's to subsidize the farmers, which is the right thing to do. But you know, I would rather us grow healthy food and be able to ship it out and get couple hundred billion in export. We lost.
Yeah, it's been a big problem. China stopped buying a lot of American agricultural with this trade war. And
Well, I heard even before the trade war, China had a shipment of corn. They found out it was GMO corn. They wouldn't take it. There was a starving country in Africa. I forget which one it was. We were going to ship them our corn. They wouldn't take it.
wow.
They don't like that GMO corn. You see, GMO food doesn't have the normal chromosome count that normal nature food has. Nature. What they've done is they take the seed or however they do it, and they put in a mutated genes to change the genes so they can spray herbicide on the plant, so that it makes them resistant to herbicides.
Okay.
But it's not genetically correct. The chromosome count in all GMO food is infertile. If you take the seeds from GMO food, it will not grow. It's a mutated plant. It's not as hardy. It takes more water, more fertilizer, and they say in 3 generations you might actually start having fertility problems. People will start having trouble women getting pregnant. Male sperm counts are way down in America.
Oh, man.
You know, men 100 years ago had much higher sperm counts than the men today. Because we're fatter, that's probably has a lot to do with it. But you see, there's all kind of things going on. It's from all different directions, you know. And I'm going on tangents here, Mike. Do you want to go on something?
We talked about Barnes & Noble closing down, Amazon kind of taking over a little bit already, but we talked more about Walmart. But like, I know you mentioned on our previous call last week about, you know, Barnes & Noble. He has some friends that work there, and their feeling in the neighborhood or in the community.
Well, one of the things these companies are doing, these big companies, and it's real sad, you know, and it goes for almost big companies, corporations, is that they hire part-time work and they give them lower wages, no benefits, they don't qualify for unemployment, they get nothing, a low wage. But they won't even give them a schedule. You go there and say, well, I went to a parts place, you know, and they had a sign out front, you know, look, help wanted, you know. So I went in, I talked to the manager. And I says, look, I'd like to work Friday, Saturday, Sunday because I'm retired, and a lot of people probably don't want to work weekends. You know what he says to me? It ain't going to happen. I says, what do you mean? He says, we don't schedule anybody. The schedule changes every week. And I says, why? He says, because that's what everybody in retail does now. Now, I remember when I was a kid, you got a part-time job. You go in, you tell them, well, geez, I'd like to work Wednesday, Thursday, or you tell them your hours.
Yeah,
and they usually would work with you. Now, they won't even give you the decency of a schedule. What if you want to go to school? Now they say, well, some people got 3 part-time jobs. I don't know how you can do that, because these part-time jobs, if you work for these corporations, will not work with your schedule. They won't do it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the reason is.
I remember that. I worked at the grocery store. I remember that, and they would work on my schedule.
Yeah, everybody did in the old days. You go get a part-time job now, especially with the big corporation. Now, maybe with a small businessman, you might give you a schedule. But some of them do it too. They just like, you know, we do it, they do it, we're going to do it, you know? But anyhow, I just wanted to make that point. I'm a little disappointed with that, you know? You know, let's say you want to do volunteer work, or you have hobbies, or you want to have a couple of days off, and every week you got to call in. You don't know when you're going to work or if you're going to work. It's terrible what they do to people.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like in China. Maybe they passed laws that employers can't do that. They'd rather have 40 part-timers than 20 full-timers. It's much cheaper to have a whole bunch of part-time people. You don't have to pay them any benefits. You don't have to pay them wages.
Not sure how.
You know?
Yeah.
Everybody's doing it now. All the big retail companies are doing that now. Everybody's part-time and flexible and no schedules.
Interesting. So, yeah, I mean, you were saying, I remember Barnes & Noble, like, I guess they're closing down all over the place in the U.S. now, the bookstores.
Yeah, it's getting scary, you know. But, you know, Amazon there might be a repercussion for Amazon. It might bring back the small stores. Because when Barnes & Noble closes, then a lot of small bookstores are open. There's a bookstore that just opened. I knew the guy. He used to work at Barnes & Noble. It's called Poetic Justice. And I go there, and I buy a lot of my books from him because he's small, and I want to give him my business. And he's a good egg. He worked at Barnes & Noble for 10 years, and they laid him off.
Oh, no.
Oh, that place is a revolving door. They just laid off a manager. It's terrible. It's not their fault. It's the way corporations think today. They have absolutely no loyalty to people. You know? Even my brother, what was it? Somebody was working somewhere. Oh, some lady. She was having all kind of problems. She was working in a restaurant, and they let her. They didn't fire her. Any corporation would have fired her in a heartbeat. You know.
Got it.
It's sad.
So yeah, so
Sad,
these
you know?
guys are
But anyhow,
cool.
you want to
Yeah,
talk
they're
about trade
well.
deals, right? We're
Yeah,
talking
I'd
about
love to. I think
tariffs and
tariffs
trade.
something we talk about
Yeah,
a
let's
lot
talk that.
here.
I want the folks to understand that I'm not an expert on all these subjects, but I am an opinionated person, and I'm 68 years old, so I've been around a little bit, and so I'm expressing my opinion as a U.S. citizen with a right to free speech, as long as we got it. But getting on to trade deals, I think the tariffs are very important for America. Don is trying to bring them back, and you know the globalists, they don't want tariffs, you know. They want to be able to build a factory in Timbuktu and pay people $3 a day and bring back the product and make huge profits, you know. So they're going to fight tariffs. And they've got this thing, well, it's going to cost us all this money to have, if we have tariffs, we're going to pay more money for everything and everything. That might be true at first. But, you know, the amount of jobs we bring back, people have to understand, I think what's the figure? 60,000 factories. You know what that is when you lose a factory? People, you know, first of all, the factory pays taxes to the town, it pays taxes to the state and to the government. The people working in the factory pay taxes to the town, the state, and the government.
Yeah.
The suppliers that supply the factory pay taxes to the town, and also skill. Factories have tool and die makers, designers, engineers, machinists, welders, production workers. All of that's gone. Yeah. All those talents and all those skills are gone. You know what's happening to America right now? We're falling behind right now. Do you know we don't build the best cars in the world anymore? You know, we don't. Boeing is behind. Boeing fell behind Airbus, and they tried to hurry up to catch up with them. And meanwhile, they cut quality control, and now the things are dangerous. They'll be out of us in a couple of years. I hope not. What else? The electronics industry. You know, all electronics is made in China. You know, and there's a lot of skill that goes involved in it. All the tool and die makers, and well, of course, the engineers are over here designing. I guess maybe not anymore. But where you make product is where you're going to develop a lot of innovation. All the tool and die makers are in China now. They're not in America. There's some here in America, but not like there is in China right now.
Yeah, it's true.
And you know, we're falling behind electronics. What's it? Huawei? Is that what it's called? They're ahead of us on what?
Huawei.
Yeah. And I don't blame China. They're doing the right thing. They're taking care of China. We have people in this country that work against our country. It's unbelievable. Who deindustrializes? What country would deindustrialize? It's insanity. I don't know who's running this country.
Yeah, they would try to say it's like white-collar jobs and creative jobs and educated jobs. And I remember this stuff when I was there.
But they don't produce product. They don't roll up their sleeves and get on a lathe and make a part. They don't.
I heard GDP does include services, though. I've heard they put services into the you know, all these different metrics of export. They count exports, U.S. services as export. I've heard, but yeah. I mean, I remember you said you support. You know, you think tariffs are good, right? I mean, these tariffs that are happening.
I don't know if they're good or bad. Well, tariffs. See, here's the situation. How I see it, in my opinion, American people have a higher standard of living. At least we did, and we still believe we do. Unless you have a college degree and making 100. I want to throw in something. The foreigners know more about what's going on in this country, I think, than the Americans. I had one foreigner tell me from Poland. She says, "America is a great place to live if you have a good job." And another one told me the trouble with America is insurance companies.
Yeah,
we don't get into that's another whole subject. But getting back to tariffs,
scary, yeah.
Our founding fathers knew we had to have tariffs. They started tariffs because they knew we wouldn't have an industrial base. They didn't like factories either because factories would make two classes of people, the workers and the owners. And they didn't like that. The wealth being concentrated in one person. They wanted everybody to be a shopkeeper, small shopkeeper. But getting back to the subject, you have to have tariffs in America to have your industrial base. We cannot have an industrial base without tariffs. We can't, unless we give up our standard of living. You know, Americans want to have a house. They want to buy new cars. They want to go on vacation. That costs money. And to do that, you have to pay higher wages. In order to protect your industrial base, you have tariffs. And that way there, if somebody tries to go overseas and shut a factory down and move it to Timbuktu and bring back their product, they're not going to gain anything because they're going to get hit at the door. Yeah. You have to protect your jobs. Now people say, well, we got to compete against the world. You don't see doctors competing against doctors in Taiwan. You don't see lawyers or state people working for the state competing against the world, but they expect our manufacturing to compete with the world. It's baloney. You know, if we want to be a world power, we have to have our industrial base. If we don't have that, it's going to catch up with us sooner or later. Right now, we're riding off the momentum of our wealth. What was that again?
Some of those doctors are competing against people overseas. I mean, a lot of that work can be outsourced, you know, online. Like we're talking about engineering and CAD design. I mean, that was being outsourced. I mean,
yeah, that's true. You can have somebody in China, in India, design a tool and just put it on the internet and ship it to the company, and they don't even have to have a design department anymore. They could just job it out to.
Yeah,
that's true. With the computer, a lot of things can happen. That's a good point.
So
yeah, I never thought of that.
So that's harder to control, and I don't really know. I mean, so I've talked a lot, you know, to all different sides of this, but you know, for many years, a lot of our listeners and even me, I mean, I make a living selling products I buy in China and sell in America. I mean, it's just kind of the way it's been for the last 10, 15, 20 years, you know, and you know, there's a lot of business owners that are.
Well, everything's made in China, Mike. I mean, I don't care what you do. You go in any store in America and pick it up and look at everything. And I mean, everything is made in China now. It's incredible. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
So I guess what's going to happen, for especially Christmas, they're, you know, I don't know, it's 10%, 25% or whatever is coming up. You know, these tariffs are hitting. But, you know, who's going to pay for that? That's the question. Who pays for the tariffs? Is it the consumer? Is it the importer? Like, you know, is it the factory?
That's a good point to make. Yeah, that's true.
That's what a lot of people have been asking. Who put? I don't know. A lot of people think it's at least for Christmas, it's going to be just a more expensive Christmas. I think for consumers in the U.S.
Well, Mike, you have to understand, in my opinion, of course, that Don is trying to protect our industries. You got to remember, the American companies are fighting buying American steel right now. Now somebody said the American steel companies are taking advantage of the tariffs or jacking up the prices. Well, then that should be stopped. But anyhow, the thing is, in my opinion, if we don't do something, pretty soon steel will not be made in America. Aluminum will not be made in America. We have to be careful. We have to protect these industrials. We have to bring back more industry. We have to. Otherwise, we're not going to be a significant nation. We're going to become insignificant, because you look at any country that's a world power, they make product. You don't make product, you're not going to be a powerful nation. You can sit there with all these financiers and these people flipping dollars and all that. It doesn't make product. You know, true, they own the purse strings in China, but it's still, your nation loses something. You don't have tool and die makers anymore. You don't have factories. And when I first went in the machining trade, all the machines in the shop were made in America. Shipley Lodge lathes, Monarch lathes, Pratt Whitney machines, Bridgeport. It was all Kearney Tucker, all these milling machines. Everything was made in America. The grinding machines, the Norton grinding machines, and they had a Herrick, and they had all these different companies. It was all American made. You know? Yeah. Now you go into a machine shop, and everything's made in China. All the machines are made in China now. It's scary. It really is scary. You know, Mike?
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's, you know, I kind of hinted a little bit. I mean, I'm technically in Thailand now, but I left about a year ago as of recording, and I spent 10 years in China, and I was kind of like, if you can't beat them, join them. You know, it's not like I was happy to do it, but I saw everybody manufacturing here. I felt like I was really having trouble trying to make my own products for my e-commerce business. I was selling on eBay, and, you know, I just feel like it's gonna be a little bit hard. I mean, I've seen other business owners saying it's just gonna be a hard. You know, you can talk about Don and the tariffs, and it's just gonna be a transition. I think it's gonna be really hard. Like you said, you can't just turn on a switch and create these factories again. You know, there's infrastructure, there's machines, there's. I mean,
it can be done. It can be done. It might not happen overnight, but you got to look at the war economy. How quickly we adjusted to that. Factories that were making cars switched over to. I'm not disagreeing with you, Mike. It's not going to be easy. No, I'm not saying that, but it can be done. It has to be done. If that, or we're going to become an insignificant nation, in my opinion. I hope I'm wrong. I pray I'm wrong, you know, because I don't want to see America fall, you know. I really don't. I'm a little disappointed in their policies, their foreign policies right now. We're
Yeah,
bombing nations. It's
yeah,
got
the
me
war
very upset, you
machine.
know?
Yeah. I mean, I guess
The
that's
war
how
machine.
countries make money, right? Countries are businesses, and businesses make money by, actually like, expanding or getting more, not getting more rights to more resources cheaper, I
That and also
guess.
the war itself makes a lot of money for people.
Yeah.
War is the 1%'s best friend. It makes them rich because they make money selling, and it also they can take over your democracy during a war and your free speech and everything else. It's
Yeah.
their best friend. It's their best friend. So I mean that's my opinion.
Yeah.
But
So,
there's always going to be problems, Mike. But we got to try to have a. I'm very disappointed with America, really, with the way we're set up right now. I don't know if you want to switch over to politics or you want to take that
nah, I mean,
another
I
time
think
because
maybe
I was
maybe
very
another
heavy in
time. I
politics.
mean,
Yeah, because
yeah,
I
I'm
got all
not.
kinds of theories about politics and economy. I know I'm a high school graduate, but you hear these people with all these big degrees telling you that lies. Lies. You don't know who to believe, who the experts are. The experts will sing any song the 1% wants them to sing.
Yeah.
And if they don't sing that song, then they probably won't be a professor in a university.
Yeah. I understand. So, I guess yeah, I think we should we'll start to wrap up for today. Just,
Hmm.
it's about
Thanks for having
time.
me on.
It's been great. It's
I
been
know
great.
everybody's not going to agree with. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, yeah,
Go
I
ahead, Mike.
guess it's true. Some people, we want to have different perspectives.
Hmm.
I think some of the listeners are, I think entrepreneurs, business owners that are, kind of like not big fans of tax and tariffs, and they feel more open, um, you know, and stuck in the middle is what some people have said. Because we're as a business owner, you kind of just, unless you're some big 1%, you don't really have any influence. It's not like you can lobby the government or whatever to do what you need. So we're just kind of stuck in the middle trying to adjust to this, and not even sure how much our price of the product that we're selling on Amazon or we're selling on to Walmart or whatever should be, because, the last few months have been really stressful with the Don's tweets, and, we don't know what's going to happen with the tariffs and the tax and the policies, and then there's this a lot of big changes. That I don't know if you read the news yet, but Hong Kong airport was shut down today from protests.
Oh
And
yeah, they're really mad at the Chinese right now, huh?
yeah, yeah, it's getting scary, and so we're all just figuring out what to do, but it's also coming down, especially right now. People got to be putting in orders for Christmas. The
Yeah,
elves are in
yeah.
China, really, and how much do you gamble because
The elves
these?
are in China. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's
That's
true.
about it.
Yeah, the North
That's,
Pole, and it takes a few months. How manufacturing, you got to put in a production order, and then do you put that production order when you don't know what your cost of goods, imported landed cost will be, So it's just a really
mm,
scary time for a lot of listeners that are, because it's a gamble. Business is a risk, and it obviously, but the risks have been increasing a lot lately. So I don't know what you would, what your final thoughts are on the whole, tariffs, trade wars, and Amazon's and
well, these people screaming against China right now. China's a threat. They're the ones that invested all the money over there. They're the ones that moved all the jobs out of America and put them in China. China's only doing what's good for China. See, China's not like America. China works for the good of China. We don't do that here. We work for the good of the corporations and the 1%. America and the people don't matter. It's the 1%, the people on the stock market and the people with the money. That's who this country services. It's not the general welfare of the nation. It's not the world people. But China, not that I want to live in a communist country. I don't. Because China there's no free speech over there, and they control the internet. It's not
it
a free
is.
nation. But then again, if you have more freedom, maybe the damn rich will take over anyhow. But I'm not saying it's just that they at least work in favor of China, what's good for China. We don't do that here. One of the big problems in America is going to be affordable housing. All these, look at the Democrats right now. They're concerned about the border people. They're more concerned about the border people than our own poor. They're
Yeah.
basically throwing the poor people of America under the bus right now. By letting all these people into the country, it keeps the wages down. And worst of all, it takes up all the affordable housing, what's little left.
Yeah.
And I don't understand the Democrats. I guess they figure they can change demographics and get more people to vote Democrat or something. They're going to throw the country under the bus. That's one of the things our founding fathers did not like were political parties.
Yeah, I remember they said it was
figured
dangerous.
The parties would put themselves above the nation, the people.
They always said warned against that. I remember reading that the founding fathers warned against political parties, if I remember right.
Yeah, it is, and they're going to be in for a big surprise with their policies on immigration. That's a very powerful policy. Jimmy Carter lost an election over that, I think. When he had Miami there, if you look at the demographics of Jimmy Carter, his first election, he was a Southerner from Georgia. He won most of the South. Do you know the second election, he lost most of the South? That Miami immigration thing really hurt him. I think he hurt the Democratic Party in the South. The Southerners don't trust the Democratic Party. I think the blacks are going to vote for Don because the Democrats are throwing them under the bus right now.
Yeah.
You know? They're bringing in all these immigrants when there's no jobs.
Yeah, I guess that's
by keeping the wages down, they're taking up all the affordable housing. They're basically throwing these people under the bus. Yeah. And you know why they're doing it? Because they're a minority. We have 340 million people in this country. 40 million are poor. Now, the group that they fear the most is the educated group. Remember when Obama used to talk? He always talked about education, your life. You got to go to college. And I'll tell you what happened to me. We should be closing this up. I could go for hours.
I think we can wrap up.
I'll make one more statement. I was a kid working in these machine shops. You know what had happening to me? What are you doing working in a place like this? You should go to college like my kids are. You don't want to work in a place like this. Go to school and get a good job. And everybody was singing that song, you know?
Yeah.
So, lady sitting in front of a door working all day on a drill press so her daughter could go to college. And that's not a makeup. That's the truth. She told me she had that job so she could put her kid through college, sit in front of a drill press all day drilling parts.
Yeah, I remember meeting some of those people at the machine shop.
You know?
Well, yeah, it's I guess it's almost sad though in a way because America was kind of built on immigrants, right? I mean,
Mike, this is the whole thing. I'm not against immigration. That's just it. We do have immigration policies, but we can't let hundreds of thousands go crossing the border. It's costing us billions of dollars to keep and camp them. It's costing us billions of dollars to put them in front of judges with lawyers that we pay for. It's costing us all this money.
Yeah, I guess it's the illegal immigrant problem, not the immigrant problem.
And what the Democrats want to do, they want to make it so it's not against the law to cross the border. They say, well, that's not open borders. Of course that's open borders. You're saying it's not against the law to cross over.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You know, I'm a progressive. I really am. But they're forcing me to vote Republican with their policies. Now, Elizabeth Warren made a big thing about gun control. I'm scared of her now. She's going to take my right to own guns away from me pretty soon.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
And then this thing about abortion. Any issue on life, the Democrats are always for death, no matter what the issue is.
Okay.
I can go into that, but I'm talking too much.
Yeah, I think we can get into politics next time. We had a really good conversation about the business stuff and the histories, and it was great.
I didn't talk about ideas, though, about business. I have ideas what to do for economies.
Okay.
Maybe we can talk about that a little bit, too.
Yeah, maybe we can get you on the show next time.
I appreciate you letting me talk. I hope some people, I don't expect everybody out there to agree with me, but maybe I've sparked a few thoughts out there.
I always stimulate my thinking, and I think some listeners got some other perspectives too. You know, it's an online show, so people all around the world can listen to this and get some insights. So,
wow, the world, holy God!
Yeah, I mean it's online, so anybody can really stream it or download it, and. But I mean, I think my summary, and I think I'll talk about it after the recording. I'll do a little summary, but it's just like you said, it's the middle class, it's the hardworking blue collar middle class that just wants to earn, make an honest living, and that's kind of getting gutted right now in America, right? There's I think
when I ran for office, Mike, I think people were concerned about three basic things: a good paying job, a decent pension, and medical coverage. That's the three things people worry about the most.
Yep.
You know.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much, Gary.
Okay. Oh, Mike, thanks for having me on your show.
Sure. Hope you're still planning to come to the Cross Border Summit, our 4th annual, first time in Guangzhou, China, during the whole trade show season, October 22nd and 23rd of 2019. We have 20 plus amazing speakers that are flying in from all different parts of the world, as well as inside China, to bring together top sellers, business owners in cross-border e-commerce and Amazon FBA for 2 full days. It's been amazing. My wife Wendy has been helping, which is very much needed, and we have a great response so far. So you might not want to fly into the Hong Kong airport, but there are other airports into China, such as Guangzhou and Shenzhen. Hopefully Hong Kong airport opens up again by the time this show goes live, especially for the Cross-Border Summit. Hope to see you there. It'll be really amazing, and it's also a way to support the show. crossbordersummit.com/China. Okay, so episode 267, Uncle Gary Garneau. He's always been the opinionated person in the family, and I hope you enjoyed this show. He is really honored to be on the show, but I think he deserves it. He's run for office. He's really taken a lot of shots at what most people in life wouldn't even try to do. And I remember that being a kid. I remember I was in 8th grade, and he was at the abortion clinics, and he was running for different offices, and he's not afraid to say how he feels. And I just, like I said, I remember these arguments in my family on Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners and all this stuff about politics and policies and tax policies and immigration and abortion and all these things. And I remember, I don't know if it was I think it was in the 80s or maybe the 90s. I remember being in my grandfather's house, Nana and Papa, I'd call them, and we had, the family over, the uncles, my dad, my mom, sister, everybody, and there'd be arguments about NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. I think it means basically it's like when goods would come in and out of like Canada, US, and Mexico for free, and then all these policies that were happening. And I remember the really passionate anger, while I was passing the gravy for the stuffing and the turkey of the gutting of American jobs, of blue collar factory workers. I think most of my family, doesn't have a college education, or maybe had a 2-year degree. I think a lot of, like Gary said, most people, maybe it was my generation that got the college degrees, but before that, most people didn't go to college, even in the U.S. I know it's also not as common in other parts of the world. And I just remember these arguments, and I remember I worked at a machine shop, like I mentioned in the interview, and in high school, I was doing CAD design. I was doing quality control. It was a lathing and milling machine shop for a subcontractor for Pratt & Whitney, making airplane engine parts. I was even the driver sometimes. I did it for maybe a year or two. And I just remember talking to the people working there, like, yeah, we're gonna get fired. This thing's gonna get shut down. There was a factory upstairs that did like clothing that got sent to Mexico. Like Gary said, I didn't even know that till this interview, actually. But I just remember the all these jobs going away, and then I also remember, the news or whatever just saying, oh, we're getting rid of the low quality jobs, and we're gonna have like higher quality jobs, office jobs. We're gonna have intelligent working jobs, owning the brands, and we don't need these jobs. And I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this, because, Gary definitely feels that you need to make a product in your country. If you're not making a product, you're going to be at a big disadvantage later. There's a comic picture I remember from 10, 20 years ago of all these different cartoon characters drawn. It's like one of those newspaper cartoons in black and white, and it has Germans like engineering, and it has like the French cooking, and it has like the Chinese manufacturing, and it has all these different people from different parts of the world, and then in the middle is like a fat American that's eating everything, or receiving and consuming everything, and it says like America's job is to eat and consume. And that has to be a problem. I think GDP maybe includes services, finances, but even Wall Street. My old job, I worked on Wall Street. I worked at Deutsche Bank. If you read the news there, they're firing or laying off most everybody in the U.S. It seems. I don't really have many friends still working on Wall Street anymore. Could reach out to them, but I know a lot of, even in Hong Kong, other parts of the world, finance is getting gutted. So I don't know where all these jobs are going to go. I mean, maybe we'll get this universal income that they've been talking about, but it is dangerous. I think if you don't make stuff, I think if you just buy and import and consume stuff, it sounds like a big problem. But I just remember the awkward fight sometimes between, it's like my dad, my uncles, my grandfather, mostly it was the males arguing about politics and policies and taxes and immigration and yeah, all this stuff. And um, but I haven't been back to the U.S. almost 2 years. I saw Uncle Gary and others. I was down in Florida, but I just am not sure what's the right answer. But even as of recording this, of course, I can't record this right when the show goes live on Tuesdays, so I have to record this a few days ahead. Donald Trump just kind of backtracked. It seemed maybe we called his bluff. He's delaying the tariffs, or there's certain tariffs. It's really, really confusing how much what products are going to be taxed at what rates and when. But I think he just announced he's pushing it back until mid-December instead of September 1st, because I think it's going to be American consumers are going to pay for those tariffs. It's not like you can just switch off China. I mean, Frederick from China Import All, I appreciate him listening to the show. I believe he listens regularly. Thanks, Frederick. I think you can't just get rid of Chinese manufacturing. You can't just find a factory in Southeast Asia or your hometown of America and go down the street. That would be pretty convenient, right? If you could just walk down the road and order from a factory and then bring your pickup truck and pick up the goods and put them in your garage and sell them online, that would be pretty awesome. But I don't think something like that is possible to happen so fast. And some of the arguments back to my family was just really horrible. And then hearing about it, for even days after in my family circle. But I don't want to open the kimono too much to my family life. But it did, of course, give me my impression. I guess everybody's childhood affects your thinking. And I consider myself, of course, I'm college educated, but I most of my friends in my hometown is a quote unquote normal blue collar kind of workers, and I don't really know what they're doing. I mean, I follow their Facebooks a little bit, and we're gonna see what it does. But like Gary says, it's not gonna happen right away, especially these Hong Kong protests. It's really gonna over time change people's thought process of where to manufacture their products and where to position their company. So thank you so much for listening. I hope these are intriguing, and I'm trying something different. Bringing my own uncle on the show. Never thought I would do that. I hope the rest of my family doesn't get upset about that. But he's got great opinions, great perspectives, and especially if you're like a Chinese person listening or somebody in Asia, of course, our team is amazing. I have an amazing team in the Philippines. You can call it outsourcing, but I call it my team. I call it human beings, people, India, China, America, Philippines, we're all humans. And I think it's not going to go away until we have a bigger common enemy, like until we're Mars versus Earth and it's Earthlings. And then it won't be like, oh, we're outsourcing all of our jobs to Mars. What's Earthlings going to do? Martians are taking our jobs. Martians are taking our taxes. Suddenly China and America will just be states in a country of Earth. I think that's the big problem, is the war of who's going to be the king country. I think a country by definition wants to, just like a business wants to grow and push their influence, push their laws, get more people to grow their population. And, it's of course becoming really the two big superpowers is America, or the United States of America, not America, there's North and South America, but United States and China, PRC, People's Republic of China. I don't know. I don't want to get into political things about what is PRC, but anyways, these two are getting stronger, and they wanna maybe push their policies, get more resources. That's what businesses do. That's what governments do, and that's just the way it's going to be, right? So, thank you so much for choosing to tune in to listen. Um, if you like this show, reviews. I do try to check our reviews. We don't get many reviews on iTunes, but if you like that, hit the review button there. Give us some feedback, or I know a lot of you send me an email or let me know you're enjoying the shows. Phil Susslow, thanks for that. Also, we're working on a book, fourth book for me, the e-commerce Gladiator book. Of course, we had the series, and I know like Alex and Paycock enjoyed it and misses the show, but we're going to make a book out of it. It's the final chapter, I think, was with the acquisition that we had announced a couple weeks ago. So I love writing, honestly. I love documenting, and the book will be coming out soon too. So thank you again for choosing to listen here, and feedback is always appreciated. What kind of content y'all like, and y'all come back now, you hear? Take care.
To get more info about running an international business, please visit our website at www.globalfromasia.com. That's www.globalfromasia.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to our iTunes feed. Thanks for tuning in.